Welcome to BleedTV, the only podcast of today's best shows and movies. I'm Zack.
I'm Jake. And I'm Cash.
And tonight we have The Walking Dead Season 8 semi-preview or...
like preview, spoiler, comic book merge. We're trying something different.
Yeah, we're going to shake it up. Throw something new content out there. This is the... We're going to go over the comic book version of All Out War and kind of compare where the show is with that and where we think it might go. And just kind of give y'all a little bit of an edge if you want to know how the comic book perceives this is going to go down, which I really don't think the show is going to follow this real strong.
No, from what you were telling us earlier, it's already pretty much impossible for it to follow.
There's several little nuggets in this. They're like, what the, Yeah. So I'm going to call it the lazy blueprint if they could go with, I think what they're going to do is something similar, but then, kind of hit some key points so comic book readers feel good about it, But
absolutely. And if you want some true 100% predictions, you came to the right place because I think we've never missed, right, guys? Like,
I haven't.
Yeah. Oh, so clearly,
I never miss.
Be careful if you listen because our predictions.
And then I think at the end we're going to kind of talk about the preview they brought to us, the one big one from Comic-Con and so on, and then a couple little tidbits there at the end before we wrap it up. But
and some
warning, this is spoilery-esque comic booky.
This is lazy blueprinting.
Yes, exactly. So if it's not something you want to listen, if you're a normal listener for us and you really don't want to know how the comic book tells how it goes from this point, I appreciate you listening this far. Thank you.
And go ahead and just continue listening because there's going to be a lot of good laughs and everything involved with it.
Exactly.
And plus, this show's not good enough to care whether or not you know what happens.
There it is. There's always the basher. Okay, not every show can be Game of Thrones, dude.
Just joshing.
All right, guys. The comic book for All Out War, which is what this is the title of next season is, Season 8, which comes out Sunday. All Out War is a 12-part series in the comic book that starts technically around 115, 116, and so on. I mean, they say it starts 116, maybe 14. Anyway, it's kind of a blur, but bottom line is that this is the beginning of the battle between Negan and Rick Company, the united front of the Kingdom, Rick's place, Hilltop, the whole 9 yards, versus Negan. And what's interesting about this is that one of the first key things when I went back and went over the comic books again, which I had a blast reading because they're just so well done. I mean, that's what I hate to tell y'all is that comic books are way better than anything else.
When you sent us the photo of all the research that you did for this, and I was like, I might have to sneak over. And...
Yeah, because I mean, I just realized I just had issue 171 to come to the house a few weeks back. I mean, 171, and this comic book.
So, are you on a mailing service for it right now? And it's still
Now if you go, I'm gonna pimp Kirkman so he can get some more pennies in his pocket. An Image, you go to image.com and you can sign up for a subscription there, and it's like a little over $1 a comic, and they mail it to you.
Oh my god!
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Because I use Comic X, and
it's unbelievable. And then there's just the array of comics that are available through Image is quite impressive. And so,
plus you just want Image anyway; they're just the best.
Well, the Image was created by this was right when Jake and I were in the heyday of comic books, and we loved everything. And like some of your best artists of that time, McFarlane, Liefeld, Lee, all these guys all got together because they were tired of the Marvel, DC. Political crap or what do you want to call it, and created Image Comics. And some of the best work I've ever seen in a comic book came out when these guys got to create their own thing, their own unique stuff. I mean, I own every one of the original Spawns, of all those things like that, and it's some of my most prized comic books I've ever had, and it's just really, really good stuff. They blurred the limits of comic book.
Good to know.
So if you're a comic book person, you ever try some Image, give it a shot. Don't get me wrong, Image does produce duds, but what comic book doesn't?
But be on the lookout because there's tons of shows are now made based on Image comic stuff.
Another good example, we pod Preacher, and Preacher's another.
Another example. Let's not necessarily say good right now.
But Preacher is Dark Horse, though, isn't it?
Preacher. I don't remember exactly who the publisher is, but it's just an example of how the comic book fad is turning to TV and so on.
Well, comics aren't the biggest selling comic books now are not superhero based.
No, they're trying to be realistic.
They're more graphic novel-y now and more grounded, or they're more supernatural and things like that. It's extremely good time to get into comic books.
And I'm going to tell you another one that I absolutely fall in love with all the time is if you never get a chance to read Mike Mignola, that's the guy who does Hellboy, his stuff is amazing.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
I mean, his stuff is legit.
Lord Baltimore, we got big into that.
Man, the Lord Baltimore series is out of this world.
No,
just old school, like 40s and 50s vampire stuff. That's all it is, and it's just so well done.
I mean, if you ever get a chance, graphic novel-wise, 100 Bullets. Best thing I've ever read.
Another one's Nailbiter. That's another
Nailbiter is
super legit.
super legit.
But anyway, let's get back to Walking Dead. All right, Walking Dead, like we said, we're around the 115 area, 116. And this opens up. This is where the comic book kind of initiates the first confrontation, the first verbal back-to-back from Negan to Rick, establishing it's war. And it's not really a situation of threatening each other.
Okay.
It's like an ultimatum of peace or we're going to get to business, that kind of situation. And
well,
of course,
peace under my rules of you're pretty much my slave.
Well, here's Rick. Rick's offer is everybody else lives, but the rest of you suckers with the guns and you all die. That's the offer he gives him.
That's a pretty good offer.
I mean, like, you can imagine Negan's response to the situation. Every fourth word was non-cussing.
There we go.
Basically, or explicit.
Like a thee or mother. An adjective to help it out.
Actually, he had to take breaths.
Yeah, the adjectives were probably pretty relentless.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a sucker in there somewhere.
Yes.
Fill in what goes in before, guys.
So that's kind of like how it goes. And so when that ultimatum's played, he tells them, look at this force, look at what we have here. You drop your guns. Most of you will live. Most of you will, and he's like, oh, so the people who are the fighters will die. He goes, well, we know there's several good people in that facility where you are. They're not per se saviors, and they will be allowed to live and do as normal. And, well, of course, Negan has this reaction, like I said before. Well, Negan pulls out his wild card in the comic book, which is he pulls out Gregory. Okay, so Gregory has been somewhat captured and so on, and is basically the turncoat of the
Not
comic
much
book.
of a wild card, in my opinion.
If you remember
not
the
a reach
show,
from here.
yeah, well, if you remember the show, everybody suspects Gregory of being the turncoat. He's the one who alerts and does this and so on. So this is pretty much on point.
And he even leaves to go visit Negan's right-hand man. What's his
Dwight?
name?
No,
not Dwight. The other one.
Yeah, the one we like.
Amazing actor, Simon.
Simon,
yes.
Because he pulls Simon aside, gets an address to go see him. So maybe this is
again. Simon is not an integral character.
Really,
not even a part of the comic book. It's just Dwight is the right-hand man. There's not the secondary man in command, if that makes sense.
Well, this is one thing the show got really well right.
Well, that's when you call a casting genius.
Yeah, because Simon is magnificent in the show.
He definitely adds that dynamic. So what happens is Negan has Gregory up there, and he talks about how, and then Gregory speaks about how go back to your homes, don't fight in this. We'll be saved. Anyone else stays out here is going to get slaughtered. Blah blah blah. And Rick kind of just looks around and, like, really? And about 8 guys of the 100 or so that are out there walk away like, okay, I'm listening to Gregory. 8, okay?
I'm surprised he got that many.
Right. And so that's how the comic book ends on that one. And when the next one comes up, and Negan, of course, with his long litany of, profanities and absurdities and everything like that or so on, lets Gregory know how useless his deal was and kicks him off the side of the building.
Oh, nice.
In front of everyone.
I really hope we get to do the 8 people come back afterwards. Hey, guys, Gregory's dead. That deal might be off the table.
So this platform here is not something we've seen in the show. We've never seen Rick face-to-face with Negan in any part of this.
I mean, we kind of got him...
Not in, like, a full battle mode. Like, I'm here with all my forces. You're, at the Savior...
At the gates of...
Where he's using the bullhorn and everything?
Alexandria.
Well, at the gates of Alexandria, but not at the Savior compound.
Okay, I didn't know
this is at the Savior compound. Okay?
So this is kind of what we can expect, maybe season opener.
Right. This is where I think if you're going to open the door to really say this is all-out war, this scene has to happen in some capacity. There has to be... Because throughout this entire all-out war, there's at least 2 or 3 parts where somebody's at the door and is screaming for the other one to come out to talk before something else goes down.
So
That's
kind of like a diversion. Hey, look at me up here. Then
kind of so. It's more like a giant pissing match. Like, you thought you had me bested, and here I am.
yeah.
Let's talk about it at the gates. And it's basically, I'm flexing my muscle this time. It's for you to surrender, and you can kiss my ass. And then the next time, it's the reversed role. And so we do that several times. So I think that's going to happen this season, where you're going to see them within shouting distance of each other, and so on.
And I mean, these are just 2 great actors that I think deserve to have this kind of.
Absolutely. So what actually fires off is that when Negan kicks him off, a sniper takes out one of Rick's men right next to him, blows his head off, okay? And the entire Rick and company retreat behind buses that they traveled over on and everything else, and a gun battle ensues between snipers at the Savior compound and all the people on the ground that are behind the buses and so on. This ends up leading to a situation where Rick and them tell everyone to shoot out any glass, any window, and kill any sniper, anything you can see on that wall of the compound.
Okay.
All right. And this is where Negan is freaking out. Again, of course, cussing like crazy. The whole night. I mean, like, seriously, this comic book's been like page after page after page of the F-bomb. You could name it. Which it's his character.
Well,
So,
hey, and in positive, AMC I think gave us 2 F-bombs this year.
That's
I
true.
mean, they doubled us up. Yeah.
They're working their way up to the $1 million they owe us.
Yes.
Anyway, so what actually becomes of this, which is something is I think is going to be a big deal for the show, is that they're not shooting out windows to kill people. They are shooting out glass and everything like that to create sound. Okay.
Oh, so
And what they've done is that what the comic book doesn't show you is they rounded up a horde of walkers, and the sound of everything happening there attracts a horde to the Savior compound.
So do we really think Rick
and
would?
Negan figures this out because they're like, our snipers are down and we're not firing, but they're still shooting everything out. And so he has this aha moment, you know, and then of course they came on these buses and they hop on the buses and they just drive off. And what's left is the horde that comes to the Savior compound. Do we believe this is going to happen?
I don't think so, because Rick has pretty much gone against using walkers in this kind of manner. I think the entire series, hasn't he?
No,
Well, the problem is we've had
used hordes to
two.
their advantage.
Well, okay, so we've had the whole Daryl riding the motorcycle leading a horde away that kind of gets separated and messes up Alexandria pretty bad once.
Correct.
We've also had the governor use a horde on the prison.
Yes.
We've
Correct.
also had the horde that they see like over the hill.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? It kind of looks like dirty fog down there. You know
Yeah,
what I
because
mean?
it's just supposed to be like, 1 million of them. There's so many,
Yeah. And then we saw them also on the interstate where they're moving cars and doing trip bombs and
Exactly.
all kinds of crap.
My
So
boyfriend taught me how to disarm this dynamite.
Yeah. This is also where we put a cable between 2 cars and do the massive chop in half scene.
yeah, the super volatile, non-lit dynamite that blows up just at the right moment. Yeah.
Hey, that's just Walking Dead.
Stupidest shit ever. But yeah, so there's a reason they keep showing the hordes. It's unfortunate though. They're running out of. I'm not gonna say they're running out of ideas, but it's like it's kind of a duh moment. You know what I mean?
Correct.
To use them, I guess. I mean, look at Negan doing. He's using them as fence guards and stuff like that. So it's like I don't know. Once again, the show is so little about walkers now.
Yeah.
But it is a good idea to waste a ton of Negan's ammunition firing at hordes of walkers. I mean, that's a good idea.
Well, to add on that, the Negan and company actually decide to do what's called like a small kill squad where he's the leader. And they go out and kill as many as they can. And then when it becomes too much, they go back inside the door. And then they repeat the process. He creates a system of guys for 5 or 6 to go out, kill as many as you can. When it starts getting harsh, come back inside, let them calm. Another group goes out, and so on. And he was the initiator of it, And most of them are using hand-to-hand combat, machetes and knives and bats, and they're not wasting bullets. Because realistically, at this time, the Saviors ammunition is a big issue for both sides. even before this war is going on.
Right.
And to where the show is not showing us this ammunition as being an issue, minus Rosita and, not having guns and can't find a bullet. You know.
Well, they can't find any ammo because Negan's taken it.
Right.
Not because they don't, not because there's like a shortage.
Different context of ammo.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and at this time, Negan doesn't have anybody from Alexandria or the good people. But in our show, Eugene is a part
Switches
of Negan's
sides and
compound,
everything.
supposedly switched sides. So that's where the show has already diverged in this point.
And now we've got Dwight, so I mean, each people's like, hey, this is that, and so
Right.
they've each got insider info.
Correct. Now, in the comic book, before All Out War happened, Dwight has already turned and said that he is a sympathetic to Alexandria,
Okay.
but is staying on Negan's side. So just as the show is done, Dwight has come over and said that I'm trying to help you guys, but I've got to stay over there as somebody on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
That is 100% accurate to the show. Okay. The difference is Dwight is a hell of a lot uglier in the comic book, and his eye is constantly running and constantly having to put Visine in there because it's just dog ugly nasty.
That's impressive because he's pretty ugly on the show.
Yeah. Well, like he's missing part of his hair all the way past his scalp. I mean, past the ear and everything. Like they did a little bitty, nugget for him. No. When they burn the other ones, like it's the real deal. You look like an alien.
Well, you look at like Thrones, when they have to do the Hound's makeup, it's much more difficult to do the hair piece as
it
well
goes into the hairline
as the facial scarring. So it's like the facial burn makeup is quite simple because they just slap that thing right back on them. Doesn't matter if there's any kind of seam or anything like that on the hairline side because it just looks like a burn.
Right, it just adds more character.
So, I mean, for time's sake, it's mucho easier to do what they did with Dwight.
Now, something else this does by having the Horde keeping Negan really busy and contained in the Saber compound, the second part of the plan is that they are going to go and attack the outposts of Negan's people since Negan is contained and cannot have messages sent back and forth. It cuts off communication.
That's pretty smart.
As well as Rick decides at the end of the comic book, Holly. This is in the comic book. Holly is the girl who was in love with Abraham.
Oh.
Okay, and Holly was replaced by Sasha's character in the show.
Okay.
So if you remember a long time ago, there was a Holly
fell
that
out of a
Abraham
dump truck or whatever,
saved from a backhoe during a construction site. She was a dark-haired, short, good-looking woman like that. Abraham, she said, at least there's one damn man amongst the rest, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the only Holly you really have to deal with much. Memorable for her. In the comic book, there is no Sasha. What happens is that Rosita and Abraham are together, and Holly comes into the mix as somebody from Alexandria and splits Rosita and Abraham and becomes the girl who wants Abraham.
Yeah.
And then Abraham is suddenly killed by a bolt through the eye as he walks down the street with Eugene, much as how Denise died.
Right.
And of course, Dwight is the person who shoots the bolt in the comic book as well as the show. Just two different deaths for different people.
Okay.
Okay. So that tells you the context of the characters. So Holly is a scorned woman who was in love with Abraham because he was heroic, who he was, just as the show shown. Well, when they get out at the end of it, Rick gets off the bus right before everybody leaves and hops into a truck. Well, Holly comes over, gets him out of it, and knees him in the groin, and he falls. She hops in the truck and drives through the compound's fence and crashes into a wall and so on. And this is purely to let the walkers get past the perimeter. Much as, if you remember, the governor did back in the day when he broke into the prison.
Right through there.
And so...
so she kind of suicide missions it?
Basically, this is what Rick was supposed to do. Rick was going to break through the fence knowing that Negan wouldn't kill him. Because in the comic book, there's several situations where Negan explains that he can't kill the leader, otherwise he loses the entire flock. That's his mentality.
Yeah.
You keep the leader alive, and you punish your important people around him to make sure that leader stays in line. Which, if you remember in season 6, or
it's
season
the
7,
Carl stuff, basically.
Yeah, that's everything. If you realize, you can't, don't cripple your leader or you lose the group.
Which, I mean, it makes sense.
It does, and in the comic book, it's done really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And so Rick's idea is to go in there, break that down. If he got out, he didn't. If he didn't, it's okay. Everybody else had a plan where Jesus was a leader, Maggie was a leader, and like that, and they had a plan. And Ezekiel is a big leader, of course, like the show, to go attack these outposts. And they're all going to be divided into groups of, factions of soldiers and men, or whatever like that, to attack the outposts. Mm-hmm. Well, when Holly does this screws up the plan of Rick doing this. And when she goes in, she rolls out of the truck, and of course she gets captured. Expecting to die immediately, Negan does it and keeps her. So she is the first person who's captured when it comes to somebody from Alexandria into the Savior compound. So then it goes on to the next comic book, where this entire comic book is all about the attacks on the outposts.
Well, okay. So then from the trailer that we watched, I know you kind of want to save it to the end, but this could kind of be maybe Father Gabriel stepping into it.
Yes. Yeah, the preview talk, you see Father Gabriel has been captured. They definitely allude to that. That's how I would interpret this.
I mean, when you're supposed to put your brown pants on, I'm assuming you've been captured.
Well, but I will tell you, in the comic books, more than one person gets captured that are key people. So when we get to the preview, we can talk about who we think this might be.
It doesn't make sense to me that make it Father Gabriel.
I don't think so either.
Because he already went kind of out on his own, did something on his own, and got captured by the emo group. And to have him captured again by the other group, it's like,
well, I mean, they did
why
it
use
with
him again?
I don't know. I think it might be just convenience. I don't know.
You're right. They did used to do it to Glenn. Like, Glenn was always the one that was getting, outsided.
It's like watching a reality show. Like, oh well, you already been up. We don't get more blood on our hands.
And what's killer is that in All Out War, Father Gabriel is seen one time, and he's praying over a grave. The rest of it, you'll never see in the entire comic book.
Weird, because I mean, he became like a all-star to me by the end of the season. Like, I was like, oh, we need more Father
he doesn't
Gabriel.
actually become a integral character again in the comic books. Now, he's in the comic books for a long period of time, but he doesn't become an integral character again until we get to the part of the Whisperers, which is the thing after
All Out War,
and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, like I said, Holly's captured. Well, then the next comic book is about the battles. Well, Rick and company take out an outpost, and this comic book is considered the most devastating of the entire series, and it's early in the series because in Rick's company he has Aaron and Eric, the couple, Jesus, and several other key people in the comic books, not some like that. And the first casualty is Eric taking a shot to the face.
Well, see, I would already assume Eric needs to be the one to go.
Right. He dies. He gets shot right through the head, right in between Aaron and Rick as they're advancing onto this location.
And Aaron's like the main scavenger that goes out with the group, right? And Eric's the one that usually stays home.
Well, no, Eric and Aaron used to be the scavengers, but Eric broke his foot.
Yeah, he got hurt. Yeah.
And he's been staying back.
Aaron is a much bigger character in the show than Eric is.
And so, it makes sense that Eric could easily
Eric
be the
is
one.
big enough in the show to show real impact in Aaron's life.
You could see Aaron be devastated. In the comic book, Aaron is devastated and becomes a
killing machine,
a warrior. Like, he has no regard for his own life and is... he's like, I'll be the first to the door.
Like Death Wish kind of
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
He's like, I've lost a lot what I had planned to have a future with.
Hey, I'm
going to make sure everybody else has a future, whether or not I live or not, doesn't matter.
I'm just
my future's been altered forever.
300 when dude's kid dies, and then he just goes out and kills.
He goes beast mode.
Yeah. Blood rage.
Yeah. So that right there is how the comic opens, and it's brutal. It's a full page. His head blown off. It's just comic Walking Dead style.
Does open the door for him and Jesus though.
It's possible.
That's a steamy couple.
And what happens is that Aaron, Rick, and company like that eventually overtake, and they just execute anyone and everyone. They don't show it all like that. You can just, they give you the sound bites of them going through room to room. And you're like, oh God, no! Please,
which we've seen already.
Yes, the brutality.
Glenn was like full-blown executioner.
Exactly. And so then, if you
remember... I like if we get one of these scenes again, because it makes me think, do I really want to be cheering for our group again? It gives us that kind of...
Yeah.
Well, war is never pretty.
No.
Think Platoon.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt.
You know what I'm saying? the movies, the good war movies, show you the horrific nature of the good guys and the bad guys.
Show you the reality of it.
Yeah.
So, not everything is glossy and pretty and lipstick on it.
What was the tank movie with
Fury?
Fury.
Yeah, dude,
Another
brutal.
ruthless one.
Yeah, I mean that's a good example of it too.
Brutal. So if you remember, there's a big debate on whether or not we're going the red-handled machete. If y'all remember the red-handled machete.
Yep.
So supposedly people say that you can see in the preview that it makes its reappearance, and this is the clue that it's Executioner Rick is back. Which I'm all for.
But okay, but the thing is, Negan has two noticeable faces in his group, Simon and Dwight.
Correct.
We already know Dwight has turned, and so Rick's not executing Dwight. Maybe he's executing Simon, but that'd be terrible to me.
Man, it would be hard to. I'm sure Simon will get executed, but I don't see that happening until at least midway through.
I wouldn't even think this half season. I would think the next half season.
It would be like 2 or 3 episodes before the season finale, I think, is
I
when
could see
it's
Simon dying the same episode at the mid-season finale as one of the good guys dying. Like it's
something
huge
like that.
deaths on both sides.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
Like
going to
it's
have to be like 3 of us for Simon.
It's a leveling act. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
But I'm just saying, Negan doesn't have any other people that you give a damn about. Even bad guys, you care about their character.
No, these are the only two.
That's the only two you give a damn what happens or doesn't happen to them.
We haven't been introduced to enough.
Right, and Dwight is such a big character. You know what's going on. So he's not one. So still, Simon is the only expendable.
Right, it's the only I care what happens to him as a bad guy.
Exactly.
So, I mean they kind of have to hold on to him for a while, or at least save him for a large moment.
I think so.
And to be honest, I really don't even care if Dwight dies. I've been hoping for it for, 2 seasons now?
Well, when we get to the end of this, you'll understand where Dwight's character ends up, and you'll decide a lot of things end up. But, all right, the second part of this issue that is so devastating is that Ezekiel's group, which does not have many of the other main characters, it's him and just most of the people from his kingdom, okay?
Which, once again, we don't know a ton of them either.
Correct,
No.
and so on, okay? All right.
Do we get
his right-hand man in the comic book is not Jerry, but it is a big guy with short, dark hair.
Huh.
Blasted.
Killed.
Killed. Okay.
No, hello.
He's
no,
killed in
nothing.
battle.
Yeah.
They have
shot.
been spoon feeding us Jerry to feel terrible when he dies.
And so-
I'm going to be
and then-
devastated.
and then like there was interviews with him about this, and he goes, "It's been a great experience for me." And when you say that, it's like, your experience is over.
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
I think that was even like kind of almost verbatim what happens in the trailer. It's like there's a Jerry and King Ezekiel moment.
I could totally see him like dying to save someone else.
So he's dying to save Ezekiel.
Something. Well, so then
100%.
that's not even the end of this Ezekiel's battle. That's so devastating is that everyone minus Ezekiel and a few guys escape, and the only reason Ezekiel escapes is because what happens is he's running, he falls into a ditch, and when he gets up, there's tons of walkers, and Shiva comes in, and just takes them all apart, but then Shiva gets overtaken by the walkers as he escapes.
Oh God! No.
And like Ezekiel's devastated for the next 3 or 4 episodes, 3 or 4 comic books. Like he's useless.
I'm not going to be able to handle Shiva dying.
It would be a super badass scene if they were able to pull that off, which they can, but they got to be looking at the cost of putting Shiva on the screen. Is not easy.
If
Game of
Thrones can't do it, I don't really know how AMC's going to be able to do it.
Mucho easier to make a dire wolf than a tiger.
Yes,
tigers are orange and black striped.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like so difficult to make that look real on the screen.
And not only that, imagine it fighting walkers.
And that's the thing. So the walkers have to be CG too, then, and all this stuff. I mean, if they pull it off, they're going to save every ounce of budget for that scene.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because everything else is practical effects and just acting.
To me, I think they're going to spend the money to create that crying effect of this. I think that it'll be the same as like losing a major character.
Yeah.
It's just like when people watch Game of Thrones, people cried when the dragon died. And people didn't care if somebody died.
Jesus.
Oh, that's over. I don't care. And
that's the whole point of a spoiler. Is it's over.
So I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I think they're going to go for that money shot like that. So again, that's what happened. So it's huge setbacks. Rick and company are successful, but with loss of Eric, Ezekiel loses most of his entire force and loses Shiva.
I mean, I'd rather we lose the entire force than Shiva. I mean, I know it's not practical or anything.
And the comic book even does a good job about, like, Shiva is killing walkers. Like, aren't you afraid that Shiva will turn? And he goes, oh, Shiva's eating a lot worse before walkers came around. That kind of. So I mean, like, they make points so you don't worry about what the
Also, they've already made it clear dogs don't turn.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect the animals.
And hogs don't turn either because we saw them being fed.
Yeah, no, I mean, they've not shown any animal turn, so.
Exactly. So this comic book also has a small snippet where Gregory returns. He didn't die from getting kicked off the side.
What?
Okay. Now he's hurt, but he's able to walk back.
So he's the walking
to Gregory, back to the hilltop. Okay. Just shuffled and hurt, stuff like that, to where Maggie and company are. And he tries to come in and flex his authority and stuff. And this is where Maggie calls him a straight out coward and gives him a good old, straight right cross, drops him like a bad transmission.
Good old country ass whooping.
Yeah. And essentially, this is pivotal where she says, I believe in Rick. The rest of you need to. We're going to band together to truly make this is a one and done thing. Either we all go or whatever.
Well, based on the preview, we get some speechy speech out of Maggie. We get speechy speech out of Rick, Maggie, Ezekiel.
It's a lot of speech.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you. The less Ezekiel speaks, the better the show has possibilities.
Yeah.
He doesn't do the king thing. Like, he doesn't do the whole talk and
his voice just doesn't have
all
the
that kind of
bravado
stuff.
that
He just
you
doesn't
want.
do the comic book. He quit all that once it was exposed. That was just all part of it, and there was multiple places. He was just Ezekiel.
But I feel like that's kind of happening in the show. Even
I sure hope so.
He's gotten less and less. All
If you
king
remember,
speech
the
in there.
last scene with him was not on this day and all this.
I know.
No, stop. Shoot yourself in the leg.
As he should have been mowed down when he's yelling out like that.
Yes.
I
I mean,
a lot of it. It's like
exactly.
cheese ball. His whole thing. I mean, how does Shiva know the difference between the good guys and the bad guys? Even so, it's like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
You're gonna let that tiger off his chain for real?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just gonna post back.
Guys, I'm gonna give some sniper fire from back in the base.
I think I saw Shone up there getting her ass kicked.
So, the next issue is 119, and this is where everybody regroups back at Alexandria. Okay, minus Maggie and company.
Okay.
This is Ezekiel, Michonne, Andrea, Carl. Remember, Andrea's alive, the love interest, the sniper. Okay, that's a big deal in
Which
the comic
has
book.
all been conglomerated in Michonne now.
Yes.
Right. And so, all that, so they all regroup. Rick shows back up, which is a surprise to half the group because they all knew Rick was supposed to be
driving the vehicle
and possibly captured by Negan. And this was going to be a motivating force for everybody back at home to want to save your leader. So when he shows up, it's a surprise to everyone, except for Carl, because Carl didn't know. And then everybody learns that Holly took his spot in that plan. And then this is also when they learn that Ezekiel lost horribly, and Eric died, and that Ezekiel's people died, and Shiva died. And so there's a big episode where this is the one issue Father Gabriel comes out, and he does a little bit of prayer, and they do, burials and stuff like that. And that's kind of it. And so then it's a town meeting about, we have to assume Negan maybe is on his way out or almost out of his, compound.
Yeah.
That he's handled that issue. We have to defend ourselves, be prepared, and they start making plans. And about that time, knock, knock at the door. Guess who's there? You know what I mean? And Negan's right outside. And
say the devil's name enough, and it's going to pop up at your door.
So of course he's like, Rick, come on out here, and so on and so on. So Rick comes to the gate, the famous, gate, like just in the show. And they have Holly with a bag over her head holding her. And he's like, I'm not talking to you until you let go of the hostage and let her come in here. And he goes, fine, here you go. And so they walk her up to the gate to let her in. Denise, who is alive and well in the comic book, runs over, who is the doctor of this area at the time, runs over to grab Holly to make sure she's okay. And when she pulls off the bag, Holly is a walker.
Yep.
Just as Sasha did in her final episode of, kind of thought you're being delivered somebody alive, and they come out and there's a weapon. So Denise gets her arm bitten severely, and Negan and company begin to throw grenades over the wall. And this kills several folks, including blows off Heath's leg to the point where it's all the way up at the hip, and he's bleeding out on the ground. Okay. Then this concludes where Denise has to make the decision of whether or not to allow Rick to cut her arm off or go and provide medical help to Heath to see if she can save him. Thus, she does, and takes him inside to try to save his life, thus giving up her own life because she doesn't cut her arm off because she's bit. So,
wow,
that is what happens in this comic book here.
That's a pretty savage moment.
Exactly.
That's a lot
exactly.
To take in.
So then Carl and Andrea are running to their house, and Rick tries to catch up on them to make sure they're all running to get to safe, and a grenade blows up behind them, and it gets Carl. Okay, Carl, is the closest to the explosion, and he's smoking. That's how much he's been hit by this grenade. They all get, blown to the ground and stuff. And so, of course, they run Carl into the same place to get medical treatment as well. And then Rick collapses because of the concussiveness or concussion of this or so on. So now it's just Andrea and Jesus over there running around and trying to do whatever they can to the melee, because their grenades are just going and grenades are going to the point where Jesus finally catches a grenade mid-throw and throws it back and kills like 8 men minus Dwight. Dwight survives, and it shows these guys get blown in half and different things of that nature.
Way to go, Jesus, living up to your name and everything.
Right. And
reminds me of like the Call of Duty, man. That was an achievement I could never get. That thing always blew up in my face.
So I'll pause there. What do y'all think that the possibilities of this kind of stuff going down?
So I think Tara takes Denise's spot.
Yep.
Because Tara's basically tried to take her spot now.
Right.
Does the medical thing. And that sounds like something Tara would do. Sacrifice her own
life.
Which we know Heath is not going to come back to the show. That has already been confirmed.
Yeah.
So who replaces Heath if they decide to do where somebody gets their leg blown off?
I mean, I think it's just maybe just a rando that we get introduced. Maybe it's someone from...
Who was Carol's love interest for just a touch bit at the Alexandria? That big guy. Remember him?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. He's a big fella. He could be a guy who gets his leg blown off, but I also see Tara giving her life up to save him.
Why does Tara give a shit about him? No, it would need to be somebody for real.
Maybe they make it Eric. Maybe
you have to understand this person is going to have one leg. Now Heath survives this because Denise saves. So this person is going to be going around one-legged. To me, I think if they do this, I think that both of them die. I don't think they keep somebody around one-legged.
That's what I would say,
no,
too.
I mean, I think they both end up dying.
I can see Tara do this. This guy gets his leg blow off, and then they both succumb to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I think it's just random stage actor left. Like, I don't think...
Not to say that Denise is... Like, Denise in the comic book's like, I've got to save Heath.
Yeah.
I could see Tara's like, we got to get out of here. I need to go help him, but then they just start taking him away, and they don't have an opportunity to take the arm off, or she gets bit somewhere else where you can't cut it off, or something like that.
I don't see us getting this biting thing because we've already seen it played, and so like I don't.
That's the other part of this too. Is we've already this has already gone down.
Thing has already happened. Yeah,
and so like I don't think Rick would let a bagged person into the compound.
Yeah, well, in the episode where Sasha comes out of a coffin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so different context of situation. I mean, technically, you could have somebody show up in a bag over their head and you haven't seen it already, and you wouldn't know that because it was supposedly a surprise when Sasha came out of the box as a walker too. You know what I mean? So I just don't see us getting the surprise walker again.
No, like I mean, I just don't see.
So realistically, we could get rid of the whole, since Denise is dead already, We really don't have another medical person there. I know what you're saying, Tara. Tara could be the person who gets her leg blown off and dies.
Yeah.
I mean, really think about it. That could be her succumb of this whole situation.
And we've already kind of technically tried this grenade trick just because Rick had set up all the explosives and stuff, and the garbage people didn't let him go off. So, I mean, there's a good chance we've already seen this scene, and they just changed it.
It's possible.
And Oceanside. You know, Tara's that connection as well.
Correct.
You know, and I realize they've already gone in there and they've had that scene where they take all their guns and stuff like that. But we already know that half of that group was like, we want to fight, you know what I mean? But they were talked down.
So it could be the daughter from Oceanside that.
So maybe something like that. If that group, some of that group or whatever the case may be is there, and maybe daughter's mom, you know, the mom, the matriarch of that group, wherever she tries to save her or something.
Yeah.
Or the daughter. You're right.
Yeah.
Good call on that. But that would make a little more sense than anybody else.
I'm with you. I mean, realistically, I don't see a one-legged person around. I mean, they could probably blow somebody's leg off and he could survive for a while. But you won't see him like on crutches walking around one-legged.
No, I mean, we've already seen that. That was Maggie's dad, and Herschel.
Correct.
And I mean, like, why do we want to do that again?
Yeah. And which didn't happen in the comic books either. Herschel didn't lose a leg. So yeah, I mean, I totally hear you there. So anyway, that is a really cool scene that has amazing potential in the show if they're able to pull that off. You know, the throwing of the grenades and the surprise of Negan being there and that kind of stuff.
I mean, my only fear is, like I said, we've already seen this scene played out completely differently.
Well, yeah, that's with the whole Sasha and Holly, such like that and so on. But I think you're going to have what's key about the comic books here is that you have Rick and company invade the Saviors and do what they did. And you're going to have Negan come back and do what he did. Okay? And the reason that Negan and them do not continue to advance in this situation is that when they throw the grenade back, it kills a bunch of the guys, right? Negan doesn't have a huge force. You know, it's several trucks, but it's not like hundreds and hundreds of men, okay? It's from his outpost only.
Yeah.
And so when they throw those grenades, well, then what happens is that Dwight and company on that side, well, a bunch of them got killed. Well, then a whole bunch, like 8 or 10 more come over to help Dwight since he's the last one on that side. And you see Jesus behind the wall kind of by himself. All of a sudden you hear bam, 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 bam. And Dwight stood behind all these guys that get ready to advance and greases all of them from behind, backstabs them all. I mean, like headshots, 9 in a row. Just bam, 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 bam. Just takes them all down. He goes, I hope this proves I'm on your side. Let Rick know. And runs back over towards Negan. And so on. Another cool as hell shot. The comic just kills 9 Jokers like that.
Yeah, okay. I'm all aboard Dwight now if we get something like that to happen.
So, I mean, like, the comic books make Dwight a badass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's conflicted, but he's also a badass. And then, you know, there's a couple shots here and there and stuff like that to the point where it forces, you know, Negan them to consider everything. And guess what happens? Guess who comes to the rescue? Like we saw the last episode. Maggie and company come in and start attacking from the side and end up rescuing Alexandria, thus requiring Negan and company to leave town.
Huh.
Okay, so that's how the second battle ends.
Well, wait, so how pregnant is Maggie in the comic book?
How pregnant is coming?
Yeah.
Maggie has already had her baby.
So that's a huge difference.
They just did this. You know what I mean? Like, this just happened.
Yeah, they just had Maggie and Ezekiel and company come in and save Rick at Alexandria.
They might cut this whole scene out.
So you realize, that's what I'm saying, like, there's a lot of really cool scenes in here, but then when you get to the conclusion, you're like, we've already had that.
Yeah, we've already seen it.
because all this stuff is becoming pretty redundant. I mean, it's like...
Yeah. Now, the other thing here is Negan and group never get into Alexandria in this battle. It's always from the wall out, okay? Just as Rick and company were from the outside wall attacking in and bring the horde. So there's never been an actual hand-to-hand combat zone, if that makes sense, within the walls of anything, okay? So that's the second skirmish that happens. Like I said, Maggie comes in with enough people that deters Negan and them, and they leave. All right? And that's, you know, and now everybody's freaking out because Rick's collapsed, Carl's down, Heath is one-legged in bad shape. Denise is in a
we've lost our
fever
doctor.
and dying, and so on. She hasn't died completely yet, and so on. And so people are just in bad shape.
Yeah, morale's low and everything.
Yeah. So so that's what the entire comic book about next is. That's like 121, 120, something like that, where they realize how deep they're in it now.
Yeah.
And they realize Alexandria is pretty much destroyed because of all the explosions, this, that, or so on. And this time, Eugene and the few people he has with him are off-site making ammo because Rick and company, they're about out, and this is going to be integral to them winning the battle. When this happens, they get attacked by some walkers at the location, and just as they get ready to kill the last one, Negan and 20 people are waiting outside for him. And so everybody's captured. They have all their ammo, and Eugene is brought back to the Savior compound. And that's how that comic book ends.
So this is pretty much the most devastating loss that they could have had happen.
Right. If there was any hope of a regroup with ammunition and a way to be able to attack and this, that, or so on, Eugene gets captured, and that's a bad situation.
Yeah.
Once again, I feel like this has already happened again.
It has. But here's the other part to it, and I forgot to mention this in the one of the comics I got ahead. When Holly was captured, okay?
She told him about Eugene.
No, when Holly was captured, she was almost raped by somebody, and Negan kills the guy who attacks her.
Sasha.
Yeah.
Sasha. If you remember, it's the exact same thing. In the comic book, he tears her skirt, tries to take her pants off, and he comes in and greases him the same way, stabs him through the neck, and kills him horribly. And so on. So again, something else has already happened, and that happened, like mid-second part of season 7. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So all that's happened. So now Eugene's captured, and so on. And so Eugene, in this situation, you're in the preview where they're talking about, you hope you got your shit pants on, or like that stuff like that. These are the lines that he's telling Eugene as part of his capture. And as he also tells this to Dwight as the Horde's coming to the compound, when he's realizing, I hope you got your shitting pants on. When you look out here, you're going to see why. And there's a huge Horde surrounding the Savior compound. So he uses that shitting pants comment several times.
Not just for when he's about to bat somebody in the head, but also like,
realistically,
shit,
yeah,
we're in trouble.
We all need to have our pants on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That kind of stuff.
We're in deep shit here, man.
Exactly.
And we need a solution.
Exactly. So Eugene refuses to give up why, or how he's doing the ammunition.
Yeah.
He has the ammunition, so that's not a big issue right now for anything.
Self-preservation. It's like,
Correct.
I'll make it for you, but I'm not
And he's
telling
like,
you.
well, I'm going to test that when you see how your friends die. And so that's how it goes. Well, about that time, this is where Dwight comes in and tells him that I'm on your side. Be patient. I'm going to do whatever I can to get you out of here. And so on. Then the comic book goes into Negan's new plan of attack. He says, I'm going to do a surprise attack again on Rick and company, but we're going to bring a new weapon. And so he goes outside, and with walkers chained to the wall, he tells everyone to take their weapons and gunk them up with walker,
Blood
flesh and gunk like that. He takes his bat and rubs it up against the walker. And he's like,
How
look,
dare you
I'm
call
getting
it his
hard,
bat?
and all this kind of stuff. He's just, it's like that. And he goes, when we hit him with this, we could just scratch them. They die. And so all of them get their crossbows and bolts and arrows, this, that, or so on, and everything else to have more silent weapons. And they're going to do a surprise attack. And so on.
That's
and this
pretty
time,
smart.
and they're going to try somewhere different, planning that Rick and company probably have regrouped somewhere else other than Alexandria. And so that's what they decide to do. And so they mount up to leave. And this is when Dwight comes back to him and says, and we have a plan. And Dr. Carson, if you remember Dr. Carson, this is Maggie's doctor, like that, and so on, who is at the Savior compound, overhears the conversation. And so you have this moment of, holy crap, somebody just overheard that I'm a turncoat. You know what I mean? And then, of course, the comic comes back to the next episode, and he's like, I'm with you, and I bet you there's 10 folks that are also with you.
There we go.
And so on. And so they devise a plan to escape the Savior compound as Negan and them leave. Everybody regroups at the hilltop, and when everybody regroups and they're making plans, preparations, the end of the comic shows Negan on the tree line saying we're going to attack at sundown, and that's how that comic ends. So, what do y'all think about the possibilities of who? Since Eugene's already captured, and we already kind of suspect Gabriel's in this, what role does Gabriel play? What cards does he hold the show could make his capture valuable?
I honestly got nothing.
I don't know. If he's the one that decides to drive through the gate or whatever to open it up to walkers or something, and that's when he gets. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really confused. I'm not confused. I'm just really curious how they're going to do the
Maybe
Kirkman remix to make that work.
Maybe just be a soundboard for Eugene to make sure that he hasn't completely turned code or
something.
Could
we say that instead of Dr. Carson and so like that, could we say that Eugene is the one who kind of helped and says, I'm ready to leave too, and decides to go? But to me, that kind of seems flimsy.
Yeah.
A thin way. If he's already committed like he is and enjoys his authority. Basically, are we saying Eugene is a good guy or a bad guy?
I think he's a survivalist.
I think he's like he always is. He's a neutralist.
Yeah. So. I mean, he's what opportunity lets me survive the best way possible.
Yeah. I can see that.
Because he's already kind of done this with Sasha, too, remember? Just giving her those drugs.
Yeah.
Is almost in a way what you're talking about with Carson and Gabriel and stuff like that. It's like that was his way of, I'm not a total piece of garbage. You know what I mean?
Yes. The comic book, like I said, is 12 parts. Do you think All Out War is going to take the entire 16 episodes?
Yeah, definitely, because some of it is my fear of the show and what they're going to do. Where I've already heard the rumors that they're going to do a Negan backstory episodes. They're going to governor it, style it.
Yeah, I mean,
there is zero backstory of Negan in the comic book anywhere to this point. You get a little bit later on,
but this is just for Jeffrey D. Morgan to be Jeffrey D. Morgan.
Right.
Mean, we've paid him so much, we're giving him an entire episode.
But that's what I'm saying. Like Cash and I talked about this before. You know, Walking Dead is just known for dragging out episodes and storylines.
Oh yeah,
2 to 3 episodes longer than they should.
The thing that's going to happen is we're going to have 3 episodes guaranteed each part of season 8, where we have 1 or 2 characters off on their own storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely.
And everybody else is just completely off camera.
And the outposts are going to make that even more possible if they, like you're saying from the comic books, if they do that where it's like Rick's team, Maggie's team, you know, whoever's team is going this way, and this way. Each one of them can be an episode where they're going to do their own thing.
Yeah.
It's very easy. And they'll do it with certain characters to have conversations between those characters.
Oh, yeah. You got to have some depth, you know.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And we're so top-heavy with characters and so many people.
Especially on the good side.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
So many characters.
I mean, we're going to have like 5 episodes that have nothing to do with the war. It's just going to be recruiting and stuff. And
yeah. Well, not only that, you have to remember, Oceanside is not in the comic book, and the Garbage Pail Kids are not in the comic book.
Yeah.
And so that right there, 2 or 3 episodes, if they're involved or become integral and so on, so that's a more cannon fodder and everything else. So there's stuff like that.
And that's the thing. They've actually introduced us to 2 or 3 of the Garbage Pail Kids that, you know, are at least noticeable.
At least the main 2, top 2.
Top 2 especially, right? Yeah. And then Oceanside. There's 4 there.
3 or 4 there, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like...
we got the little girl, we got the mom, we got the mom's daughter. And then
you got the warrior girl.
Yeah.
You know,
2 warrior girls.
That's true. Warrior. One main one that has a lot more speaking
One main
parts.
one, but there's 2 of them.
But you could say that's 5 people who could die and it means something.
Well,
to a point.
Yeah. Somewhat means something.
There's no way they kill
the little girl would be the most catastrophic death.
There's no way they kill her, right?
Hey, man, you know what? If you want to spike some ratings...
You kill a little girl, or you kill Carl's girlfriend. I forget her name. The balloon girl, Enid. So I mean, yeah, we have a lot of deaths that are going to happen, but I don't see this taking under 16 episodes.
I wouldn't blink an eye if Enid gets blown to bits in a grenade battle. I'm just putting it out there. That could be a good shock value.
The only problem with that is we don't want morose Carl again. You know what I mean? Like, Carl already did his suicide mission to go get Negan.
Yeah.
He got back. You know what I mean? And Enid's not even with him anymore.
Yeah.
She's at Hillside.
There is no Enid in the
Hilltop,
comic books. Okay, so there is no Enid in that area.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is most people will soon come to realize that this show is actually about Carl.
Well,
You
I
know,
will tell you that
Kinda.
Ian is not in the comic books, and in the future, for good reason.
Yeah, there's a.
So I'm gonna leave that alone because we're only talking about All Out War, but that's why I say Ian is gonna be high on my list of people who need to go.
Bite the dust.
Yeah.
So maybe she's the one that Tara's trying to
I'm
say.
going to be honest with you. I mean, just gonna put it out there. I mean, I know that's a little bit. I'm not going to tell you like that, but I'm just telling you, she needs to go if they're going to follow the comic book like they need to. Let me put it that way, okay? And if you're a comic book reader, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, I could totally see Eden just in bits and pieces go everywhere. You know, you're not gonna see her get her throat tore out or anything like that. I just don't see that. So,
But I mean, going back to like the person that we thought Tara was going to save, boom, Enid's an easy person for.
yeah, there you go. That could be a slip in there.
Maybe.
Very possible.
If we end up getting the scene that
exactly,
we've already,
that's if we even get it because we've already kind of had a little bit snugget of it. So.
That's what I'm saying. We've already kind of had some of these things.
Right. So here's phase 3. The hilltop gets attacked by Negan now. Okay. This is a surprise attack. Okay. Negan just walks up and says, "Hey, where's Rick? Da 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 da." And some Billy Badass at the gate, which is a no-name on the comic book, with a spear, because they make spears.
Yeah,
there we go.
Says, Rick's not here. You're talking to me, and he's like, "It's time for the grown-ups to talk." This, that, or so on. Somebody shoot this MFer, and boom, and blows his face off.
Domed right there.
I'm like, this is how you start the comic book off, right here. And so when this happens, everybody on the other side of the wall is freaking out. They're not prepared. And all of a sudden, a truck blows through the side wall of the hilltop.
So we've already seen this.
And so on. Blows through the wall. And so on. And they send a vehicle in. A big, big vehicle in there. And what people are armed and ready. They mow this car full of ammo. And the two guys are in the seats. They take 1,000 bullets. And, you see Negan, damn, because these two guys are just riddled.
Yeah.
Like that. And what it does is that, if you, like in the show, Hilltop is a small contained area. So if you, when this creates this and there's a little bit of explosions like that, they're able to get into the compound without being hit or get behind buildings and start sneaking around, and becomes the first true, possible hand-to-hand combat. And, every so often, Michonne's killing this guy, and then Ezekiel's hitting this guy, and one's about to kill Ezekiel. Michonne saves him. They're shooting, have a small battle, and like that. And Negan and Dwight and one other guy are able to sneak around to the back to kind of flank them out, and so on. And you got to remember, they're hitting people with crossbows and bow and arrows, and not just gunfire, that are covered with the gunk on it. And so people are just getting nicked and hit or slashed or so on. And Negan goes, there he is. We can end it all right now. And you can see Rick from behind shooting over hay bales. And he's like, Dwight, shoot him. Shoot him, Dwight. And you see Dwight put a bolt up and it shoots Rick in the back. It goes right through him. And he drops. And so on. And he goes, now get out of here. We've just won. And they all run out of the hilltop. And so on. And that's how the comic book ends. You see Rick get shot in the back and he's down.
Holy shit.
And the bolt goes right through him.
Yeah.
Now, I would say it's like a kidney, liver, kind of more to the love pack on the side.
Possibly
not in the chest region where, he's coughing blood up.
Fat pack. But nobody thinks he's dead because there's zombie goo on it.
Exactly. He's like that, so on. And so they leave and set up camp within eyesight of the hilltop. Put a fire out and doing marshmallows. And they're like, isn't this kind of risky? Like that. And he goes, they're good as dead. There's no leader. We're done. We'll walk down there and they'll be begging for us to take back over.
The old victory cigar.
They got tents and kumbaya. S'mores. They rush Rick in there and everybody into the infirmary and stuff. And they soon realize that people are getting high fevers and dying, or turning and then they go from like one bed to another, and you meet this guy's wife and his kid, and he's holding his hand, and you fought valiantly, and what am I going to do without you, that you're not here, we're in a hard place, you know, and stuff.
Look at the flowers.
Yeah.
So all that, and, you know, and the doctor walks in and says anybody who was shot or wounded is going to die. And of course you have this moment of Andrea and Carl and him with this, you know, big eyes, like Rick's about to die, you know. And of course Rick didn't, and Dwight had a clean bolt that he shot him with, and shot him in a place that would kill him, you know. And that's how they played it, you know. And of course you needed that, right? And so,
although if a bolt's going through and through somebody, I don't know what the survival rate of that is, but it's got to be pretty spectacular.
Harrison Ford on The Witness was able to survive a long time with a bullet wound in the same location. Pack it with gauze, let's roll.
Well, I mean, that's non-vital area.
I could live with it.
I'm just saying, like a bolt
I
going
don't
through
want
and
to
through.
live with
Like, that's a,
Yeah.
But I mean, you want the clean entrance and exit. So
true, but like, a bolt, man, like that's leaving.
what would suck is that just the doctor walks up. Sorry, Rick.
Wait!
And Dwight shows up.
It was clean.
It was a clean bolt.
He's good.
I'm so glad he's.
What happened to him? He's buried over there. It's okay, we took care of it.
Oh,
Oh my guys, shot
Carl
with
just
clean
greases him.
bolt. Oh, God.
Yeah, Carl's already killed his mom.
Yeah, I mean,
Just walk up to Dad.
Y'all didn't get my chest
One
piece? I left a pawn. Like I thought everyone knew.
Yeah. Oh Lord. So the next step, you know, next comic, they talk a lot about, are you feverish? Are you, and he's like, leave me the hell alone. I don't have a fever. I'm okay. I'm not sick. You know, da 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 da. But they're steadily losing the guys who got hurt. You know, and it's devastating and so on. And so they park a bus or two where the wall was destroyed, and so on. And so of course, in Negan fashion, he rolls back up onto the place, you know, and and so he's outside the gate.
Yeah.
Then it cuts away to where Eugene and Dr. Carson and all them have escaped, and they encounter an outpost. And when they pull up, the outpost shoots out the car they're in's headlights and the motor and kills it. And when they come outside, the outpost folks, which is a small number, it says, "Oh, look who it is," and da 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 da. And they end up attacking those guys and lose a few of them. But of course, Eugene lives, Carson lives like that, and kills those folks to make their way back to the hilltop.
Impressive.
Yeah, and so a little bit mixed up there.
So is Eugene a little bit more of a fighter in the comics? Or?
Eugene is a much improved character by this point. Like the way you see Eugene now, they did make him kind of a sniveling liar opportunist, like we talk about. Well, in the comic book, he turns into
a capable person.
Not Abraham courageous, but
Formidable.
as close as you can say to that.
Okay.
Like he really does have a big turning point. You know, when Abraham dies, he kind of assumes his role along with being inventive and smart and all that kind of stuff like that and everything else. And so we're back to Negan at the place, and he's boistering, you know, being boisterous out there at the wall. He's like, "Well, I know your leader's dead, and I know all y'all are about to die and starving. Da da da. Your savior has arrived, and you know, and da 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 da, and so on." And so Rick's, you know, you see him talk for a second, and then all of a sudden you see Rick hop up and goes, "If you think you see a ghost, you better run," you know, and all this, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What, Dwight, you son of a," you know, and he's like, "You can't do nothing right." And he's like, you know, and this whole time, so they have another dialogue to the point where Rick comes off the wall and is within feet of him. And they go into this long conversation. And they go back and forth. There's a good banter, and they're talking and stuff like that and everything. And he goes, "You know, I bet you want me just to kneel, and I bet you want me to do this, and blah, blah, blah." Well, the whole time that this is all going down, Andrea and Michonne and Jeeves like that are making their way out of the back of the hilltop to be able to flank
Negan and
Negan's company, because Rick's just keeping him talking, you know. And of course, Negan thinks that he's won, and so he's just, flapping his gums right and left and so on, to the point where right at the end of the comic book, he leans up and goes, "I guess, Rick goes into this huge conversation about how the world can be changed, where we can all be equals, and we'll create a barter system, and
his typical speech.
Buy and sell, trade labor. We can work together. You won't lose what you have, but it's not a situation we're just going to give you this, that, or so on." And Negan's like soaking it up like a dry sponge. He goes, "Wow, I didn't think about that. I'm kind of feeling what you're talking about, and this could possibly work, and I get to keep my leadership, and you still get to keep yours, but you're the fuck over here," and back and forth, back and forth. And so Rick's like, "Absolutely, and what's even better?" And he leans in, Rick pulls a knife out and slices Negan's throat and cuts him right across the side right here. Not like he got him where it's insta-death,
right?
But cuts him to where like he falls to his knees and grabs his throat like, "What the shit, man?" And Rick raises the knife like, "I'm your new effing leader," and da, right? Well, that's the comic. That's the end of that one. So then it goes to the next one, and Negan looks up and tackles Rick. He's not cut enough to say that he's toast.
Mm-hmm.
He's still got life in him. And when that happens, Dwight hollers out, "Let him fight, let him fight." When the other guys are getting ready to attack the hilltop, well, then Michonne and all them come out, and they're slopping heads off, and, Jesus is doing his kung fu and hitting people and taking folks out, to the point where it's kind of just those two are battling at it. And in the comic book, Negan is enormous compared to Rick. He is a formidable foe. I mean, it's just like massive
he just took a
to the
neck
guy.
slice and his tackle.
And so on.
And
like
Rick
that.
has a bolt hole through him.
Right. And so Rick, like that. So they end up fighting like that. They end up on the ground, and Rick rolls over to try to kick him, and Negan catches his leg and shatters his leg and his arms. Like, just crunches his leg to where it's like reverse angle and his foot's facing him when it shouldn't be.
So it's like Gordon Hayward.
Yeah. Yes.
Poor old Gordon Hayward.
Oh, God. Poor Boston Celtics, everything.
And when this happened, Rick is screaming in agony and stuff like that, and Negan stands up and then passes out from blood loss. So they're both laying next to each other. Rick's devastated leg, and Negan's passing out from blood loss, and so on. And
that's kind of lame.
So when they come to Rick's aid, he screams at them to make sure Negan lives. Go save Negan. And they argue with him, and he's like, "Go make sure that MFer survives." And so on, to the point where then Dwight picks up the bat and says, "I'm your new effing leader." And says, "You need to listen up real quick because this battle is over." And so on, to the point where, dun dun dun, that's the end of it. And so when you come towards later, when Rick's like that, he goes, "Why do you want him to live?" Da 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 da. Because he's sitting on a slab and he's chained, and they've got bandages on his neck and like that. Because he goes, "I've got plans for him," and so on. So then when he looks in there, Carl's in there, and he pulls out his 1911 and puts it to Negan's skull and goes, "I got to do this." And, of course, they have this long monologue of like, "Don't do it. There's a reason. This sumbitch right here is going to live and rot in jail and see everything that he could have had and understand what real pain and what real this, that, or so on, da 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 da." And so Carl puts the gun down and leaves. And so he looks back over and stuff like that, and he goes, "You're fucking awake, aren't you?" And Negan's like, "In and out, but I caught most of it." Like that. And he goes, "And I wasn't lying, bitch. You are going to suffer through everything that you could have done and what you could have been great and everything else. And you're going to know those bars for the rest of your natural born life," and da da da. And boom, comic book's over. And that is All Out War.
Well, I think Negan's definitely going to die. I don't think he's going to be.
Well, I can't say what happens on the road, but I can tell you this: if Negan dies in the show, then you need to go ahead and stop Walking Dead based on where the comic book goes. That he's that integral.
Huh.
I just can't see you keeping on a Jeffrey Dean Morgan for that long.
I can.
I mean, he ain't doing nothing else, so.
What Negan's character is, because you have to understand, when this comic book's over, the very next comic book, everybody, is the 2-year gap. This is where they do the 2-year fast forward. We no longer use cars. Everything is horses. Windmills are in use. We're making our own breads with fire and stone ovens. It's a stick and structured compounds, and there's a barter system like he talks about like that with other little communities. Michonne is on a ship out at sea collecting fish and coming back. I mean, like, it's like a whole new world. Okay, and this leads us to something we'll talk about at the end, where you get to see Grandfather Rick, or as I like to call him, where he has a gray and white beard and short haircut like Abraham. And so on. That's his new look from this point moving forward. But he also has a very nasty limp, a walking cane. And if you remember, in the course of the comic book, he's one-handed.
Yeah.
So he has a mechanical arm, that has the claw on one arm, and he has the cane in his other hand with a bad leg. And he looks like Father Time. So this is what the new Rick looks like. This is what scares the crap out of me, because they make him a limping, disabled guy with a big old white beard and hair like that. The visual appeal just went pew.
Well, tell me this. Is it possible that the show ends with All Out War?
No.
Well,
No way. Not this cash crowd. No way.
Only with, like, all the suing and stuff. Like, I don't know how legitimate that still is and stuff.
Well, let's talk about the comic book ending. First of all, what did y'all think of the comic book ending of All Out War?
I love it.
I mean, it could be awesome. But a lot of the awesome stuff from the comic books don't translate well in the show.
Well, what's sad about this, All Out War, half of the good stuff or something like that has already kind of happened, or has pigeonholed it where it can't happen again without being redundant. So really all you have is some of, like, the gunking up the weapons and making people sick as a cool twist. The bringing the Horde to the Savior compound, which we not so much, but that would be something that we haven't seen.
If it's done right.
If it's done right and so on. If they actually show, like, loose battles. I think the outpost battles could be cool, because there's not a lot of detail to outpost battles. It's just kind of, you see them out there fighting, and then the people die, and that's the end of it.
Each outpost could have different defensive mechanisms.
Right. I think the outpost battles can be good, where you lose key people, and that can be devastating. I think the show is going to have to bring in the Oceanside and the Garbage Pail Kids to make it more interesting, so you have something different than the comic books presented.
Well, and you just have cannon fodder. Like, I mean, we said earlier. It's good to just have people that we don't care about.
The Garbage Pail Kids were a complete and utter debacle of adding to the show. I just have no...
Awful.
Yeah.
There's zero purpose for them.
Awful.
What they did for the show in the last season was a joke. And,
they heard it. Like,
yeah, they really did. And then the whole deal with having the supplies on the boathouse in the middle of the pond full of walkers, and Aaron supposedly going underwater and possibly dying.
Garbage.
I mean, all that stuff was complete waste. It's just uncompletely.
That whole Father Gabriel thing where he's leaving. It was so, like, just twisted, the story of, like, how he was leaving these breadcrumbs and
yeah.
And then they just somehow found him in the middle of this.
The only thing good about the Garbage Pail Kid was the Garbage Pail Walker, with had all the armor and knives on him like that Rick had to battle.
And even that,
like, that was just for a cool effect.
Yeah, but
that was it.
Yeah, but that was
like,
whack.
How can we get this to happen?
Thunderdome garbage.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
Yeah. So I mean, like that. So I think the comic book, to me personally, I think Negan lives like the comic book does, just because I'm a comic book reader, and I think he's integral to the future of the show, as well as the comic book.
But I mean, is there a way that we could pass that off to somebody else? Because, like, I just don't see Jeffrey Dean Morgan signing on for that long. And I mean, like, and a lot of people are already done with Negan. Like,
I can't answer the question without saying something that's
I don't want to know
more. You know what I mean?
But I mean, like, there's just a lot of people who watch the show who are done with Negan. And so, like,
there's a lot of people who love Negan to death. But I'm just telling you right now, in the comic book, Negan does not die. he continues on in the comic book.
Well,
and so on. So there's no Simon comparison, so that's interesting. Which we both all agreed that Simon's got to go. Throughout this deal and stuff. Told you what happens to Dwight and everybody else. Carson, he lives and like that, all that good stuff. So I mean, that's where you need to know all that. But I think the comic book, how this thing goes, was really, really good. I mean, I was super excited getting every issue and how they were going about it. I think they did some great rope-a-dopes and changing things up. And it was a kind of a twist to see that Negan did live, and I know why he lived. And so I think it's great. I'm very, very concerned with the show being able to match or do something that's a good enough remix to make you feel as good about it, the way they're going. And, of course, they claim, like they do every year, this is the most action-packed season yet,
I think that we are going to go see one of the more action-packed seasons that we have seen.
I think so too, but action-packed doesn't translate to great, to fun to watch either all the time. I mean, I still think about the seasons I've really, really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
They weren't always because it was just action. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, there was great story building and
the characters were
a lot of
right.
callbacks, and we didn't have too many people. But I think with this being so action-packed and us hopefully actually losing people, we can get back to where it was a smaller cast and everything, and we don't... It's odd to say that we don't have to have it as action-packed, but after some of these characters fall off and stuff, we can get the one-on-one with Carol and Daryl and things like that.
Right.
And so, as it weans on, we don't need as much action, but it's still going to be one of the more action-packed seasons.
I agree.
Because we had to get to this point.
Okay, well, let's talk about the preview real quick so we kind of wrap this up. The preview talks about Gabriel being captured. We've talked about that, how we think that might mix into it. All right, there is a scene in the preview that shows a gun with, like, marks on it, and we believe this is Carl's gun and so on. Would y'all agree with that? Him holding this, it looks to be a 1911. It's got, like, marks
I think
in it.
so.
Yeah, and it's got, like, the red little...
What do you think the significance of this is? You think this is just him and his kill count or his revenge gun? Or?
I think it's just more of the dark side of Carl.
Do you think that something has to happen for him to create this? Can we believe that this is where his girl dies, or somebody integral to him dies, and this gun is the
only people that are so close to Carl is
Maggie, Enid, Michonne,
and Rick. And that's kind of it. The cores,
correct.
Other than Enid. You know what I mean? And I mean,
I can totally see
of
Enid
any of them going, it's Enid. You know what I mean?
And that could create the whole, I want to have revenge since she's on my level and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you on that.
Because I could see Carl thinking, like, that's his only future.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I mean, she is the girl of his age.
It's the breeder.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
We're going there. It's the handmaiden tales.
Of course, and everybody's buzzing about the old man Rick scene. Okay, it's got the foggy look, and he's laying in a bed and stuff. And we already know this is not him waking up from his coma, and this is all a dream. We know all that stuff, but this is in here just to create buzz. I mean, there's no doubt. That this is supposedly what you'll see towards the end, and
this
after the all-out war.
This makes you think that this half season will show you the end of all-out war.
Right, like the time jump is sooner than you think, or
I just can't imagine that they'll do that before the next half season.
I can't imagine Rick with this look moving forward.
No.
The way he looked in that bed and like that, like a Father Time, with the white beard and all that stuff like that, it was atrocious, first of all.
Yeah, no.
And I'm telling you right now, if they decide to go to Walking Dead 2 years down the road, and this is what he looks like in 2 years, he's been rode hard and put up wet 1,500 times.
Yeah, and Michonne ain't standing for this.
No.
She's rock hard body, just like...
Yeah, she's dropping him like a hot rock.
Falling into Herschel 2.0 over here.
Herschel 2.0.
Might as well take his leg. His third leg, too. This old bastard. They don't have Viagra in the future.
Good God.
That kid ain't helping nobody.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. That actually ruins the preview for me. And a lot of part of it. It's just like... God.
I mean, first of all, we know, like, that's the end scene of the series. And, like, everything's all done and Rick is just done.
It's possible that they're going to show several flash forwards, throughout this half season and next half season that show you that, hey, Rick's gonna make it through this, but it's just showing you little tiny flashes of what the future holds, and then it's gonna be like Tarantino style. You know what I'm saying? Where they're showing you some things from the future, but then they'll flash right back and how you got there.
Yeah.
That may be one of the little flash forwards that they show us.
Or it
Very
could just be a
possible.
lame ass dream sequence.
Yes.
If they do another one of those fucking sitting around the picnic table
With
and
people who are
Abraham
dead.
and babies and stuff, I
Oh, my
will
God.
shit everywhere on this episode. I mean, gross.
I know it, man.
I mean, there's a good chance.
I'll be
it
honest
is.
with you. If they do a backstory on Negan, where like you figure out who he was before,
I'm
all
telling
this,
you,
this,
they've
so
already
on,
said that it's going to get
I'm going to be
the
very
governor
nervous.
treatment.
I think it will hurt his character. If you tried to say he was an accountant that had somebody named Lucille or or whatever, and then
It's going to be Michael Bolton from Office Space. Stupid fucking copy machine just wouldn't. He just beat her with a bat.
has a lot of salary value.
Honestly, though, I mean, I wouldn't hate that too much if we just see him taking Lucille to a copy machine.
Yeah.
And, 50 minutes of a bed against a copy machine.
I hate Michael Bolton's music.
All right, so let's ask this question. There has been rumor and talk of, or even confirmation that there's a crossover between Fear the Walking Dead and Walking Dead.
Yep.
Okay, and boy, has Fear the Walking Dead derailed again. I'm not gonna lie. It was going good. We were on the ranch. Things were going pretty good.
I mean, you were
There was
almost
some
halfway
character
convinced
development.
me into watching it again.
Yeah, it was going good, but then all of a sudden they really detour. I think wrong. There are parts that are pretty good, but then they're doing the classic. I'm not getting into it, but anyway, long story short is there is supposedly a crossover to make it where these two lines. First of all, the timelines here are completely different. Walking Dead is years ahead. Okay, we've been through multiple winters.
Yeah.
This is still fresh of the same year on Fear the Walking Dead. So for that to happen, this would have to be a character who is prequel to The Walking Dead, not in the originals. An add-on character.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the money on online is Abraham, being the Southern guy and so on. Y'all agree with this or have another theory?
I hope it's Abraham. I mean, I don't. Once again, another actor I don't see doing anything else, and he's a beloved character. So it's like, yeah, bring him back. That's no reason not to.
Yeah, I mean, it'll spike the ratings and everything, but then it kind of ruins, to me, everything Abraham did in The Walking Dead, just because how do you never mention this group?
Very true. And then not only that, because they did an Abraham backstory.
Mm-hmm.
They showed Abraham with his wife and child, and then they
he
died,
He rages out,
and he
they
rages
leave him.
out, and then the only thing that gets him back on point is
Rosita.
Eugene gives him a new mission.
Yeah,
Well,
Eugene,
and he meets Rosita beforehand or like at the same time, so.
Eugene
Eugene
meets
was
him
first.
Oh, okay.
Eugene was first,
Yeah.
and then Rosita was next in the mix, and so on. So if we have Abraham, that means we're going to have Abraham searching for his family, or I think when they did that, he was with his family the whole time.
He's with his family.
And he couldn't protect him.
He rages out in a supermarket. They leave him after seeing how violent he was, and then they get ate up by walkers outside the grocery store.
Correct.
That's when he falls to his knees. He's about to put a bullet in his mouth, and Eugene's running from a walker.
Yeah, stumbling, bumbling.
Yeah.
all down the
So,
street. So
getting to that point,
that's what my problem is.
I don't know.
Are you going to say that Abraham, him and his family, are with them?
Yeah.
And he just neglects to say, I was originally part of another group?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that.
I mean, and as soon as he finds out that Eugene isn't who he says he is, and they still stick around, he's like, why don't you go back to this fear group unless the fear group is completely wiped out?
Right.
So either the show Fear ends with Abraham, or Abraham's like almost a false character.
Yeah. So let's go over some other characters. Who, one thing we don't really have is Rosita backstory. Rosita could be a person.
That's a
God.
lot of filming, though.
I already don't watch Fear the Walking Dead, but add Rosita to it, and it just
It's
might as
not-
well be a dumpster fire.
I'm just thinking about it. You don't really have much of a Rosita backstory.
No.
She came with the Abraham crew. So if Rosita dies this season, she could just be picked right back up on Fear.
But then again,
she doesn't come in the mix until after Abraham loses his family and picks up Eugene. So realistically, she has no connection to anything.
I mean, she doesn't, but it's still. I mean, maybe we get to meet all of her boyfriends who taught her how to do all this amazing stuff. So
Hey, right there.
There we go.
That's
Nick,
it right there.
Nick's her ex-boyfriend.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Boom. There it is.
This is how I learned how to be one with the walkers.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm feeling more Rosita based on that right there.
Gross.
I didn't say it was fantastic.
The least amount of time she's on the screen, the better.
All right. Well, let's move away from this. I think we both can say that there's really not. It's not Eugene. We know that. I don't think that could be. I mean, it's technically possible, but doubtful.
Maybe the guy who got left behind in season 1 and rejoined us.
You talking about the guy who left them to try to go?
The Mexican family.
Yeah, the Hispanic family, and so on. I read a little bit about that. I don't think that's a big enough character to say. Maybe.
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't remember where they said they were heading.
They were going to look for family somewhere, but I don't remember where.
But yeah, but it was
they
like
were in Atlanta at the time.
back west or something.
Yeah, I mean, very possible.
Yeah.
Very, very possible. It could be
Michonne?
If they were to show that guy and his family on the screen again, I would have no clue who he was.
Yeah.
No.
It's been too
I remember
long.
him. He was kind of a heavy set fellow.
Yeah, no, but it's just been too long.
It has. Yeah, season 1. This is season 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so it could be anybody, but I don't think it adds any flavor. If it's Abraham, they're gonna have to do a lot of explaining. Anybody else? So what?
Maybe it'll be Axel from prison.
Yes, there you go. Yeah,
Some of
before
the
he got his head
inmates.
blown off.
Some of the
Yeah,
inmates.
this is how we actually got here in the prison.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
7 warrants in Texas
All
for
right.
raping horses.
Oh,
Oh, my God.
black sheep over there.
We've lost every Texas listener from here for the day.
He's wanted back in Illinois for banging chickens.
I miss
All right,
my
let's go down
donkey.
your main characters. Who dies this year? Because they've said and promised that multiple key people die this year. All right, let's go ahead and cancel Rick, Carl, Michonne,
Maggie.
Daryl,
Maggie.
and Maggie for sure. All right, so the next biggest name I can think of is that possible.
Rosita
of course,
dead.
is Carol.
No.
No Carol death.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Rosita death.
No,
Gone.
100,000%.
Yeah.
Please die.
She's dead before the half season.
I hope she's dead before the episode starts.
We lost Rosita. What happened? She died yesterday. See, the episode starts.
We had to cut her out.
We had
Tragic.
a tragic filming accident. Rosita didn't
Yeah.
make it.
Well, Walking Dead did have filming accidents. They lost. A
Yeah,
stuntman.
they did lose a stuntman.
Yeah,
Pretty
he
terrible.
Died in a mishap and falling, which is horrible.
Oh,
Pray
well.
for that guy's family. And so, okay, so Carol's a no for y'all.
I don't think so.
I kind of have a little bit in me saying that she might go. It just kind of maybe run its course.
If they kill Carol and keep Rosita, I'll never watch again.
It'll be a two-man.
I'll be done. It'll be 2-man pod.
Yeah. All right, Rosita, y'all say absolutely.
Yeah, I'm thinking Rosita.
What kills me is me having comic knowledge. So I kind of agree. You can, if she dies, there's ways to.
How dare you bring that into this?
Yeah.
You just read.
Scum.
Yeah, but Rosita, gone.
Yeah. All right.
Gregory, gone.
Yeah, I'm going Gregory gone.
So, you think Gregory dies?
Eric and Aaron, I think both are gone.
I think just Eric. Eric's dead.
I think Eric's toast. I think that's one thing they can actually follow a comic book and watch his face get blown off and would be completely
Oh man, if
excited
we
about
just
it.
get like an opening scene of him getting domed and then we're still charged. Okay.
Tara. I think Tara's
Yeah.
done.
Yes.
Tara's gone.
I think Tara with the Oceanside thing, that's a way to sever the Oceanside permanently,
Yeah.
is make sure Tara goes.
Yeah.
So that I think that's a good death.
Father Gabriel, may he rest in peace.
No.
I'm
I
not
don't think
excited
so.
about it, but
I don't think Father Gabriel dies.
Oof. Man, he got captured again.
Yeah. I just don't see that. Eugene?
I don't see it. Eugene's like, he's one of the only creative people. And then if you're talking about like us going back to Stone Age and stuff, like I see him being pretty vital.
Yeah. I don't see Eugene dying.
I don't want Eugene to go yet, so I'm going to say no.
Yeah, and I'm interested with this character. Like, I mean, a badass Eugene is kind of a cool character.
So we all agree Enid's toast.
Yeah.
I think Enid's going to have to be toast at this
Yes.
point because Carl's going to need the new motivation.
He's going to need some new motivation.
I've killed my mom. and my girlfriend. Nothing else.
I'm growing this hair out. I'm so emo. You don't even know. I hope he just dresses in all black.
Oh, good God.
Turns the sheriff's hat inside out. It's like,
Takes the eye patch off.
takes the eye patch off. I'm rocking it now.
I'm rocking it.
In honor of me.
Who else we got left?
Uh,
Tobin was the guy's name, by the way. I just remembered that.
Tobin, yeah, not worth knowing.
Yeah, he's dead.
I've already forgot.
Jesus?
No.
No. I mean, I don't want Jesus to die either. I think it would be a cool death if they somehow did it, but
I
don't see
think
any way.
I think he still has
Yeah.
value.
It's probably value moving forward.
Yeah.
And so on.
Is
Simon, I think we all said
Yeah,
he gets
he's a
greased.
goner.
Oh man, that's tough.
As much as I hate it, he's a goner.
He might be like the season finale, half season finale death or something. Well,
He could be the guy leading the outpost that defeats Ezekiel.
Yeah.
I see something like that. Or the people who attack Hilltop. I mean, he's got the connection to Hilltop.
Correct. Yeah.
King Ezekiel. I think he dies.
Nah.
No, I think
I think
Ezekiel
if Shiva
lives.
dies and Jerry dies, then he lives.
Jerry, 100% death.
Yes. There. If I'm willing to put some money down,
I
Jerry's
won't
going
be
down.
surprised if Shiva kills Jerry.
Look, guys, I'm pretty hungry.
Jerry!
Shiva, no! Jerry's
Save
just
me
like a
the
big
leg.
Jerry
fat T-bone. Just
Save me a leg, Shiva.
they do the classic cartoon thing where he just looks at like a running steak, just like salivating.
Oh, God, if we get like Jerry just dressed up in a steak costume and Shiva's tearing into him.
Stop. Yeah, so I mean, like, that's the majority. That's
I'm pretty much going every non-main character dead.
They could really thin the herd, as they say.
Well, they
Yes.
need to thin the herd, though. That's
Right.
the key.
I
Is
mean,
it?
we need like only 7 main people to worry about. So we got a lot of chopping to do.
All the Garbage Pail Kids.
Who are they?
Oh, I hope that
Yeah,
they
like-
just melt.
Maybe we
No, that's Shiva bait.
No, just one light of a fire will get all those tires will just go up. They'll just cook.
Incinerate.
They'll glow in the dark the rest of their lives.
maybe that's where we get the cool grenade scene.
Maybe
You
so.
know,
They're
just-
the practice. You know. Oh.
Hey guys, we want to make sure these work. Can you hold on to these for a second?
Yeah,
No,
you
no,
with
stay
the
right
fucking shimp haircut. It's awful.
Yeah. So, all right. I think that kind of wraps up the characters and what the comic book presented.
Yeah,
I don't think there's much else to say to it, you know, other than, like I said before, I thought the comic book version was pretty epic. I hope the show can match it.
Yeah, like I mean,
Or do better.
I've got goosebumps after hearing everything you just told us
So
with the
I
comic book.
think it'd be pretty legit. You know? I don't know about you guys. I mean, was there something that we missed? I mean, don't get me wrong, there was some other little details here and there, you know, but I really want to kind of hit the gist of what happened.
Yeah, the high notes.
And you know, so people know where it's coming from and who they could replace this person with that and that person that. But like you said, man,
no
a
need to
good
replace
third of it-
anybody. Need to just remove
Yeah.
people.
yeah, a third of it has already kind of happened in its own way. So I fear redundancy, and I fear.
I fear
The-
flashbacks or flash forwards.
Yes.
Absolutely, as well as the whole let's do delay episodes of having a episode dedicated to 3 people or 2 people doing
You
something
know those are
separate.
coming. That's just their
There's
MO.
so many of those, and only a handful are good.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we've only had like 2 that were actually.
I mean,
And I think they probably both had Morgan in them.
yeah. Well, I remember there was 1 or 2 that had like Daryl.
Well, yeah, the Daryl and
Daryl and
the little girl-
his
well-
love interest. You know, she died.
that very awkward love interest.
Huh?
Remember, she was the girl who sang. God, what's her name? You know, Maggie's sister.
She died in the
Oh.
hospital. The
Yeah, she
cop
got
killed
shot
her.
in the head trying to stab her with a
Yeah.
scalpel or scissors or something.
Whatever.
Was it Emily? No.
I think no, Emily was Andrea's sister. I think
Yeah. God, what's the girl's name? Why am I?
starts with an H. I think Haley. No.
Wow.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
amateur hour around here.
So easily forgotten.
Well, I mean, we've only named like 200 characters tonight. God forbid.
Sing
we
your
miss
songs, little girl. Fucking-
one. But
Anyway, there was a few of those that were good, like that stuff. But man, some of the other ones were just like, oh, dog shit, you know.
yeah, no, I'm done.
Anyway,
hit us up with your theory. See if
yeah, really.
if you
Yeah.
agree with our 100% hit rate. on who dies and everything.
According to Jake, yes.
Hey.
Never been wrong. Never.
Prove it. Like,
Well,
go
yeah,
back.
hit us up with a post or like that. We'll be on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. Just let us know what you think of the season. Or how was your reaction to listening to the pod about how the comics? If you didn't know what the comic books were, how they presumed to go.
If you're just super pissed at Zack for spoiling everything,
Without
we warned
giving you
you,
adequate
ass.
warnings. Spoiler alert right here at the end, guys.
That's
We
right.
told you.
That's right. Absolutely. But other than that, guys, I think we're just going to call it a night. We're looking forward to the next season. It starts on Sunday. I think it's the 22nd. And
Fanboy just read 18 comics again and forgot the season premiere date.
well,
Come on.
It's 8, 9 Central. Okay. Get off yourself over there. Sunday, AMC, channel 254 on DirecTV if you want to know.
There we go.
Good Lord. Anyway, other than that, guys, I think we'll just call it a night. This is BleedTV, and I'm Zack.
I'm Jake.
Cash.
See y'all.